link to the Discord.
Amy wants you to.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Bella.
I invited her to come up in the panel if she wants to, Tammy. There she is.
There you go.
There she comes.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to look at the link later. This is the first time I've gotten on since I talked to you earlier.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You'll find lots of information there.
Nathan said he might be on later. He's with a friend right now helping them.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And Sally should soon be here.
Yeah, she should be here soon. I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit so people can kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about tonight, you know, in Revelation it says he deceives the entire world, everybody. Well, it's already happened, and most people don't even realize it. But there's actually, in the text of the New Testament, there are two Jesuses. And I know everybody's going to say I'm crazy, but it's really real, and it really happened. Okay, we had, before Pontius Pilate...
Sally's here.
Oh, good. I'm going to see where let me see if I can get her up here. There we go. Hey. Thanks for coming. I got a little bit of an echo, I think. There we go.
Uh-oh.
It might be Sally's mic on. There we go. That's better. I don't hear it now. Okay, we're going to talk about the two Jesuses that are talked about in the New Testament. And a lot of people don't realize there are two Jesuses in there. But there are. When Pilate has both before the crowd, he says, Jesus, which one do you want? Jesus, the one called the Christ, or Jesus Barabbas? Okay, now on some of the versions, they have taken out the word Jesus from Barabbas' first name. Both names were in a lot of the manuscripts early on. And then Origen, if you read back in the Jewish Encyclopedia, there's an article on Origen saying that Jesus was called Jesus Barabbas, and that throughout the text of the four Gospels, when his name is mentioned, both names were there, but they took them out. And that was just like, to me, I was like, what? You know, when I read that article, I was like, wow. Because I saw this before I saw that article. But it kind of like stunned me. I'm like, we got two Jesuses. And then when I looked at what Barabbas meant, it really stumped me because it means son of the Father. And you know, he said, I come in my Father's name, but when another one comes, you receive him. Because he comes in his own name. I'm paraphrasing. But that's kind of disturbing when you think about it. And everybody has spent, I know the last 10 years people have been scrambling to figure out what the real name is and what is this name and does it match that name? Does it match this Hebrew manuscript or the Old Testament? You know, was it Joshua from the Old Testament? I mean, there's just been like, the sacred name game has just gone on and on and on. People argue, fight over it. But I think it's a very simple solution, but a very complex one at the same time. Because I believe Jesus Barabbas may have been the real Jesus. In fact, I'm pretty much 100% decided he is. I've done some videos on YouTube on it. If you go to my profile on my main page, there's a link to my YouTube channel. You can just click on it and go to them. I have one on there, Jesus and Barabbas, and I have one on Matthew 24. Because this deception goes all through the New Testament. Am I going too fast, guys?
No, you're great. Go for it.
Okay, all right. So we're going to look at this information tonight a little bit, and then I'll invite some people up, and they can ask questions when we get done doing like a kind of little presentation on it. John 5:25, we're told, At the end, I say to you, the hour is coming and is now here, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear it will live. Kind of a really good message. But that amen, amen that we have in English, in first century literally meant at the end, at the end. So he's telling us it was at the end times. It's where we got the word, like when you watch a movie and at the very last of the movie they put the end, or when you read a book it'd be at the end of the novel. That's how that came about. In the first century, they put amen at the end of Greek plays, and it meant the end. Okay. And like I said, he said, I come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. When another comes in his own name, you will receive him. And they kind of iffily translated that because they have if another one comes. But it's not if in Greek, it's when. So he was definitely saying that somebody else was going to come and take over in their own name. And we have a lot of things we can look at that'll give us a good reason to believe that there were actually, that Barabbas was the real one. My main that sounded off. I didn't know what that was. My main reason for believing that is look at who they were yelling for to be released. Okay, if all these people were waving palm branches and all excited because he was coming into Jerusalem and, hailing him like he was a king and everything, would they be screaming for him to be unalived? I mean, that makes no sense. I mean, this is common sense part of it. It's like you think about the blind being healed, the lame being healed. People were traveling long distances without any food. At one point, there were so many big crowds that he had to get in a boat so he wouldn't get trampled. He was healing large amounts of people. Now, would that same public that he did all that to be screaming for him to be crucified? That just does not make sense. Then you look at the names. Okay, the Christ name means anointed or a king. Okay, and was he ever crowned a king of Israel by the elders and the priest in the temple? Oh, he's helping somebody. He might be here later, Sally. But he was never crowned. In fact, he was more mocked than anything because they put the crown of thorns on him and paraded him around in purple robes. But when they tried to make him king or wanted to, he fled to the mountains. And we've only got two people in the New Testament that were anointed kings of Israel that we have a concrete statement. Okay. All right. It depends on their settings. Like I tried last night and I couldn't get anybody to be made a moderator. Hang on a second. I don't think I got. Well, if it gets to that point, I'll just stop and I'll do it.
Okay.
I don't want to lose my train of thought. I'm worried about losing my train of thought. But we only have two anointed kings of Israel. We have Herod, which everybody knows about, and Pontius Pilate. And most people go like, what? Pontius Pilate was no anointed king. Yes, he was. If you go to Acts 4, I'll pull it up so I can tell you the verse. I kind of got ahead here. That's how I do, though. I'll end up talking and I'll end up saying a whole bunch of stuff that's not even on the cards. Okay, I'm close. It's Acts 4:27. And it says that, for indeed in truth they conspired against the Holy Child, your Jesus, Herod and Pontius Pilate, both being anointed kings with the nation and the people of Israel. And that's a literal translation. And then you got to look at Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat. And that just kind of went over my head. I've never really even noticed this until I really started looking at all this a lot more careful. But it's like he was sitting on the judgment seat. Nobody sat on the judgment seat unless they were an anointed king of Israel. And I checked that verse where he's during the trial when he asked Jesus, am I Jewish? And it's not a question at all. All he says is, I'm Jewish. And it also says that he was doing sacrifices that he was mixing in the blood of the Gentiles with. So we have a lot of stuff in there that we don't know. But I went and looked historically. I said, well, if he was, then there has to be something historically in the historical papers from Rome. And there was. Eusebius has him down in the Papyrus 66 as being an anointed king of Israel also, and making laws and stuff. And that really surprised me. So he's actually was in, so we've got both of them in front of him, and we've got him asking which one they want to be released and which one they want to be crucified. And they're yelling for the Christ one to be crucified and for Barabbas to go free. Now, what I think happened, and I've got like a 3-hour video on this, is I think they switched them because that evening before and that morning they beat him in the face. They even beat him in the face with a cat of nine tail things that has like the metal things on it. And when they actually crucified him, they put a complete head cover over him. And then Pilate had the sign put up above him saying King of the Jews. So nobody would have known which one was which when they went to the cross. That there's a possibility that they both were unalived, you know. And I'm still looking into that part. But he told us, he said, I lay down my life and I'll take it up again. And from everything context I've been looking at, that meant he meant what he said, that he was going to do that. And he said, no greater love does someone have for a friend than they lay down their life for them. Because that's the number one big question that pops up in everybody's mind. Which one went to the cross? But it's really peculiar because I think the one that was Jesus Christ was James the Just. James the Just was a high priest in the temple. He did sacrifices. They said that he was so holy that he was on his knees so much that they would look like camel hair. They had like calluses on them. And it's like they eventually unalived him afterwards, according to Acts. But it's like we have, I can't pronounce his name right, Sagittarius, saying that he was in Rome much later than after would have been the ascension. So that doesn't make any sense unless there's, like Bella has a theory that he was given some kind of drug and just out of it, and they pretended, you know, and then he was back alive. But it says, like, remember when the woman asked if her sons could be given the honor of sitting on the right and the left, and Jesus said, but can they drink the cup that I drink? If so, then they'll be granted that. Well, that cup was the one he was praying about, I think, in the garden. I just saw him in here, I think. I think Nathan's in here, I don't know. I invited him if he is.
Nathan's on his headset, he said.
Okay. So he could have been, James could have been on the right and the left, even if it was Barabbas in the middle, and there were three of them. So there's a lot to still look into, and I'm still looking into the actual cross, the things that happened at the cross. There's a lot to look into in the garden, like when they came to arrest him, he said, "You come at me like you're coming at a robber." It was like he was giving us a clue. I was teaching every day. Why didn't you grab me then? Now you come out here with all these people like I'm a robber. And I think he was trying to give us some clues on that. And then it says that he was an unaliver. Or when you look at the Greek, they dropped the negating particle. It actually said he was not. He was in with a bunch of people and kind of like got caught up and arrested and brought in with the group. And that would have made sense because he was hanging out with all the people in town that were, troublemakers and prostitutes and all kinds of stuff. He wasn't hanging with the rich. Okay, let's see. What do we want to say next? Now, here comes the biggie that most people don't think about. It's like Jesus literally tells us several times in the text not to call him the Christ. And most people it's like you just read right over it. It's like it doesn't even exist. Or then other people make up excuses. They'll say, well, it wasn't time yet for him to reveal that. They would have unalived him right then and there. And I don't think they could have unalived him until he was ready for that to happen. Because he disappeared in the temple when they were trying to grab him then. But I'm going to read those to you, I think, because I want you to make sure you hear them. Because I know a lot of people are going to say I'm crazy by bringing this forward, but if I didn't think it was real, I would never bring it up. Because my heart nearly stopped in my chest when I saw this verse and thought I knew what it meant. I was like, how could I have read over that all this time and just read right over it and not seen it? Well, darn, now I can't see. I'm sorry it takes me a minute to find these. Aline knows what my files look like. There's tons of them. Darn it. I need new glasses. There it is. Okay. The first one is in Mark 8:29 and 30. And he said to them, "And you, whom do you say me to be?" And Peter answered, saying to him, "You are the Christ." And he rebuked them. And that's a strong rebuke too. When he says rebuke, that's like get out of my face type thing. And we don't. It's kind of like we read right over those two like they weren't nothing, but they were a big deal when he said he rebuked. That to tell no one, they should tell no one this concerning him. He didn't want them to tell anybody that he was the Christ. Okay, then we go to Matthew 16:20, and it's stated just a little differently. It's like, then he strictly forbade them to tell any man that he, Jesus, was the Christ. So that was another command not to do it. Then we have a third one. It's like in Luke 9:20 through 21. Then he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered, "The Christ of God." And he strictly charged and commanded them to tell this to no one. And it's like, even if he, it makes no sense. Why would he be saying that in such strong terms if he didn't mean it? Okay, this is the verse that started all this for me. Matthew 24:5. I was reading back over that. Because, there's the debate of whether we're in the end times or we're not in the end times, back and forth, back and forth. And I was rereading everything, and I looked at that verse, and it says, "For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and they will lead many astray." And I sat there, and I looked at that, and I said, No, that can't be saying what I think it says, because it never popped out at me before. And so I started pulling the interlineary and looking at the Greek. And when I pulled the Greek, I was like, oh, crud, it does. Um, and I just felt like really bad because all my life I called him Jesus Christ. Everybody I know does. Well, when you look at that verse, it says, for many will come, and the next word is in my name. Okay, in Greek is epi. And epi is a special word in Greek. It means to superimpose or lay upon. It's the same word they use for like your epidermis when you're in high school and you're studying about your skin, your system, and they tell you your outer layer is epidermis. Well, it's a layering on top of something, on top of another, or to superimpose on top, or to lay upon. So if you're going to read it in literal terms for epi, it would say, for many will come, superimpose my name, saying I am the Christ, and they're going to lead many astray. And if you're going to say it just in a more casual way, you would say, for many will come upon my name, saying I'm the Christ, and will lead many astray. Does not mean there's going to be a bunch of many Christs running around, like we were taught. And when they ask him when the end would come, it's like, his first answer was, don't be deceived. And then this statement. And that was I was just thinking about it. Well, your mind starts racing once you see something like that and you think, oh my gosh, have I got it wrong? Have I had it wrong all these years? So the first verse that jumped to my mind after that was 1 John 2:22. Who is the liar but he that denies that Jesus is the Christ? That is the liar and the Antichrist. It goes on to say, well, when I pulled that up and looked at it, well, it looked normal. So I pulled it up in the interlineary, and I like to have died because they dropped a word out of it. Right in the middle between Jesus and Christ is the word not. It looks like O-U-K in English. The Greek letters do when you look at it in the interlineary. And it means not. It should have read, who is the liar but he that denies that Jesus is not the Christ? And I was like, I'm not believing this. So I kept going and I kept going. And I looked at the trial. Okay, 6 times we have Pilate asking him if he's the Christ. And we have a reply. 5 times it replies, you say so. Like, in other words, you're saying it, not me. In Greek, that's kind of how it reads. It's like, well, you're the one saying that, not me. Okay, then the 6th time, you have him saying, I am the Christ, and that's a mark. And when I looked at that, it was like they dropped another negating particle. It literally reads, I am not the Christ. And I was like, I'm not believing this. But you keep going and looking and looking and looking, and there's a lot of reasons why I'm saying this. I think that Jesus would have had a lot of reasons why he did not want to be the anointed king, and why he was not the anointed king. Like I said, there were 2 of them. One was born to Mary, and one was sent. Because when you look at the word monogene and firstborn, they're 2 different words. They're not the same word. An only begotten, or a monogene, comes from a single gene. It would only come from one parent. It would not come from 2 parents. Okay, a firstborn comes from 2 parents and has brothers and sisters. A monogene has no other brothers and sisters. And so I dug through and I took all the red letter text and I said, what did he say about being born and about Mary? Well, most of the time he calls Mary mother. Not mother, but a woman. We have one time in English where he calls her mother. And it's real clear to see that it's not really mother, because he looks at John and he says, John, he's on the cross. He looks at John, he said, John, behold your mother. And then he looks at Mary, and in Greek, he literally says, I love you, stepmother. He calls her stepmother. Then, trying to think. Okay, then we have another place where he indicates he was not born of a woman, where he said, of those born of woman, none is greater than John the Baptist, but the least in heaven will be greater than him. So it's like, the least in heaven, that wouldn't even place, so if Jesus was born of a woman, that wouldn't even place him as going to heaven. Do you see what I mean? That's pretty bad. Then when we look at what he says about how he got here, over and over 40 times, he said he was sent. He never said anything about being born. Then we have another place we can look, where he's talking to the Jews, and he asked them, whose father is the Christ? He literally asked them who was the father of the Christ. If he were the Christ, do you think he would be asking them who his father was? I mean, that just makes no sense. But that's the quickie version of about 9 hours worth of video. But I thought I'd open it now to see if anybody had any other things they want to ask questions or comments or anything, because I rattled on here for a while. What do you guys think on the panel?
There's a guy in the comments asking you to read Matthew 15:24.
15:24.
Acts 5:31, Fly Man or something. Fly Man, do you want to talk with her?
It is 24. Oh, that one about it was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. Is that the one you're talking about, Flyman?
You want to come up and talk, Fly Man?
That word is not actually lost. It's destroyed.
There he is.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. No, so that was Jesus talking, right?
That was one of them.
Well, that was because his real name started with a Y back then. He was given a new name for some reason, right? But he stated clearly out of his mouth who he came for and who he was sent for.
Now, there's two different things on that, because if you read John 1, he says 4 times he was sent for the world.
No, but the world, according to Isaiah 45:17, read Isaiah 45:17. Because I don't want you to take my word for it. It's just, the Bible is very, very simple.
You think?
I know. Because it's simple for the people that it's for.
Israel has been saved by the Lord with an everlasting salvation and will be put to shame or humiliated to all eternity. That does not say who he was sent for.
Wow. No, that's not the King James version, huh?
No, I don't read the
me
King
the
James.
King
This is
James,
a literal. This a literal
It
translation.
still says the same thing almost, actually.
What have you got in your King James?
Because there's so many different versions, but the King James would be correct. But that actually is true too. I like that translation, what that's saying too.
Yeah, this is a very literal one that I got special just because it is literal. I like the
Because
more
I can
literal.
break down both of those. So go to the King James version and then do that one again, and I'll break down both for you.
What's the verse? Isaiah 45 what?
17.
17.
Yeah, I'll look too.
Now that I agree with you, the one that called Jesus is called himself Christ, did come for the Israel.
The
But there were
lost sheep of
but
the house of Israel, right?
but
But you got to
it
read that Isaiah 45:17 because it describes who the world is specifically. It says, Israel shall be saved with an everlasting salvation, world without end.
I'd have to read it in Hebrew then because that's a total different reading.
I mean, either way, the last thing that you said is Israel will be destroyed, right? That's what it's saying, right? And guess what? All the people who believe in Jesus, right? They're the same people who destroyed Israel. So they think they can destroy Israel and Jesus is going to save them.
So you don't even believe in Jesus?
No, listen. I believe his real name was started with the Y, right? Right? And I believe Jesus came here to save the people who are being oppressed constantly. And how can he save the enemies of God? The enemies who are persecuting the real Israelites. The people who are persecuting the Israelites, they have to go into captivity. And then they're going to be utterly destroyed. This is what's written in the book of Obadiah.
Flyman, do you know the truth about who the God of the Old Testament is?
So what do you think the truth is? He's the God of Israel. That's what it says 2,000 times.
Yeah. Do you understand who's the God of this world? Do you know who the God of this world is?
Who's the God of... Okay, so there's two worlds. You have the whole earth and everybody on the earth, right? Right? And then you have the real world, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, according to Isaiah
That's not the right
45:17.
No, you're taking it out of context now.
No. Did you see what it said? It said world without end is Israel. The world without end is Israel. The rest of the earth is going to end.
Well, I know Yahweh expects to wipe out all the nations except for one.
Yeah, exactly. Israel shall be saved with an everlasting salvation, world without end.
Israel is Jacob's people. Do you understand that? Which is Yahweh's people.
No, but do you know
Yahweh,
who Jacob's real people are? They're not the people who pretend to be, according to Revelations 3:9.
Man, I'm sorry, but I'm not up here to argue who is real Israel and
No,
who's not.
but I'm just saying this is how you would understand the Bible. If you don't understand the Bible, that's cool. You can mislead people all day, but you don't understand the Bible at all. No understanding. That's fine.
I have a different opinion than you do.
The real Israelites.
Are you keeping Sabbath?
Okay, listen. The real Israelites had a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Well, I know that a lot of the black people think they're the real Israel.
No, it's not about
because they belong to Jehovah, who was Yahweh.
It's not about think and who named them black. That's not who God named. God never named them black.
I don't even think that Yahweh is Jesus's father.
No, I'm saying you don't have the understanding because it's not for you at all. But the real Jacob's real bloodline descendants understand, like it's written in the Bible. It says he had hair like wool. It was gray, right? His skin was bronze as if burnt in a furnace, right? What color does it come out if you burn something in a furnace?
Have you ever really looked at the word Israel? Like
No,
really?
I'm just saying, you guys are not the Israelites. You don't even know who you are biblically. You guys don't know who you are in the Bible.
No, none of us are.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
I'm a
not
real
an Israelite at all.
I'm a real
I
Israelite
never
for
claimed to
No,
real.
be
you.
an Israelite, Flyman.
No,
If you
you're
belong to
not
Yahweh,
by
you are
blood.
an
Yeah,
Israelite.
you don't want to belong to Yahweh.
You don't want to belong to Jehovah. Jehovah is Lucifer. Don't you understand that? That's what we're trying to tell you. The God of
Bro,
this
I'm
world
not
is
a
Lucifer.
Jehovah's
We're
Witness.
not,
That's not his
bro.
name. God's
And my
name is
name
not
isn't bro. Would
Jehovah.
you stop? Would you stop for a minute and
God's
listen?
name starts with a Y.
No, it doesn't.
No, you don't have the understanding because you're not a bloodline descendant of Jacob. So
I
you'll
don't want
never
to be
have
a
the
bloodline
understanding.
descendant of Lucifer. Do you understand that? Those are the fake Jews.
Okay, the fake Jews look like Howard Stern. Okay?
No,
Those are
no,
the fake
they don't
Jews.
all look like Howard Stern.
Yes, they do. The
Oh my goodness.
the real
This is
Jews don't know
hysterical.
that they're the real Jews. It's that simple.
The real Jews are the
Flyman,
Romans.
I'm not trying to be Israel, okay? I
No,
don't
you
even.
never could be. You never could
We don't
be.
want to be. We
This
don't
war
want to
needs
be.
to
Nobody should
end, though,
ever
that
wanna
where
be
the
that.
Israelites want to destroy everybody else.
No, so listen, God is going to do it and you have no choice.
Which God?
Which God?
Jesus is not going to save racist white tea people. I'm sorry, bro. It's not gonna happen.
Do you understand? Holy smokes. What was that about?
I'm done.
Yeah, wow.
This racist stuff, people, I'm going to tell y'all right now. You know, I don't know how many are listening, but this racist stuff got to end. It's got to end now.
Yeah,
Everybody's
that's nuts.
being played by this book. And they're gonna wish they hadn't. They're gonna find themselves unaliving a lot of people. And then they're gonna feel bad about themselves. We're supposed to love one another. I'm gonna read y'all a verse right now, and this is for Flyman. This one's for Flyman. This is Father sent his son to save us from Yahweh. And it says in John 1:6, there came a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify about the light. There was the true light, which coming into the world enlightens every man, not one race. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to the same, and those who were the same did not accept him or receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, even to those who would believe in his name, who were born not of blood, which is race, of the will of the flesh, nor the will of man, but of God. 4 times he tells us he's come about the world. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, the monogene that was sent, that whosoever believed in him would not perish but have eternal life. It's probably the most important words in this entire book. This thing about the races has to end. It has to end. Father loves us all. And I'm not going to argue the Israelite thing.
There's a guest waiting to come on.
Okay? Who's wanting to come up?
Okay. I don't know. Nathan just said there's a guest waiting.
Oh,
Not
Mama
sure who.
Lori?
Hello,
Hey, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
this guy, this fly man.
Hey, Lori.
Hi. He's really confused. And he's stuck on, he's one of the special people. It's an ego thing. It's a demon.
I don't
That's all
believe
I'm
it
going to
comes
say.
from a good place, that's for sure. It's like it's not coming
Yep.
from a place of love, and we're supposed to love one another. I'm not
Jesus
talking
came to
behind your
save
back,
us
Fly Man. You're right
all.
there. You're welcome to type in chat, but I'm not going to have you up here promoting hate and unaliving everybody but one race. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. And that's Yahweh's plan from the Old Testament. He said he makes a complete end of all the nations except for one. You don't even have to come in here. This is not your room. You know. I love you, Fly Man. Whether you're full of hate or not, I hope that you change. You know.
Yeah, Nathan's right. It would be like me having my 3 sons and just picking one to love because I feel in my heart he's better than the rest, and then destroying the other
Well,
2.
and
What
Jacob
kind of
I have
parent
loved,
is
and
like
Esau
that?
I have hated.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Well,
Maybe we
guess
should
what,
not
Flyman?
focus on, I was going to say, let's not focus on Flyman anymore. Let him do his thing and let's just
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah. Jesus loves everybody.
Okay, where was I? And now I've lost my place. That's okay. We'll get it back.
You're doing awesome.
I was just trying to give them some of the information so they could, if they want to come up and talk.
Some people don't want to talk to you, they want to talk at you.
Yeah, that's
So let's carry
okay.
on. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions about what I've said so far?
No, I think you're doing great. Keep going.
Okay. Another thing that I realized once I saw this was that the Jews are actually the Romans, and you can tell that just from the New Testament alone. It's like in Luke 23:2, and they began to accuse him, saying, "We found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar, saying that he himself is Christ, a king." And so they're saying that is their nation, and that giving tribute to Caesar was to give tribute to their king, and he was claiming to take that place. Okay, John 19:15. But they cried out, "Away with him, and away with him, crucify him." Pilate said unto them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So they literally are claiming that Caesar is their king. And that's why I think that there's so many people in the New Testament that are both Roman and Jewish at the same time. Because one was a religion and the other half of it was a political thing. But they were all living in the same place and they were all worshiping the same thing. Like we have Paul. Let me see if I can get this card to come up. We have Paul in Acts 25. When he had to go on trial, he said, Paul said, "I'm standing before Caesar's judgment seat." The judgment seat, the same one that Pilate was on, "where I ought to be tried. To the Jews I have done no wrong, as you yourself very well know." So he's literally giving you a clue right there that Caesar's sitting on the judgment seat. Okay, then we have Acts 17:5. But the Jews which believed not, moved with envy, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the baser sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city in an uproar, assaulted the house of Jason, and sought to bring him out to the people. And when they found them, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city. These that have turned the world upside down have come hither too, whom Jason hath received, and these all do contrary to the decree of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Jesus. See, so they were claiming that Caesar again was their king. And it's interesting enough when Jesus mentions the synagogues and the law in several verses, he never says my law, my synagogue. He always says their law or your law, your synagogue or their synagogue. He doesn't put himself in as being a part of it. I can read a couple of those verses too, because it's, for me just to tell you that probably doesn't make sense. Let's see, Matthew 23:34. Because of this, lo, I send you prophets and wise men and scribes, and them you will unalive and crucify, and of them you will scourge in your synagogues, and will pursue them from city to city. Then we have Matthew 4:23. And Jesus went about all of Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and manner of diseases among the people. Mark 1:39. And he preached in their synagogues throughout all of Galilee, and cast out devils. And I made sure when I looked at that to look at the Greek, and the pronouns are correct. The pronouns indicate that it wasn't his synagogues and it was not his laws. Like John 8:17, and also written in your law that of the testimony of two men it is true. John 10:34, Jesus answered them and said, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? And that I said ye are gods is a direct quote. He's not saying that he was the one that wrote it. Luke
There's
2.
a request there, Golanov.
Oh, okay.
There's a request to come.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. You may have a question. Hey,
Hi,
how's it going?
it's going good. I've been listening to your videos and following you. And I was listening to another guy a couple years ago who I kind of fell off with, but he also pointed out that there was two Jesus in the New Testament. And that always stuck with me, but he swore that you only could use the King James Version of the Bible.
Okay.
And I don't believe that anymore, but I never did forget that that teaching that there were two Jesus in the Bible. And that's becoming more clear to me now, but how do you rightly divide the red letter words in the Bible where Jesus is speaking and where Jesus, the Christ, is speaking? How do we figure it out?
He gave us a clue when he said the one that's from earth speaks of earthly things, and the one that's from heaven speaks of heavenly things. I think that gives us a big clue. Like, I think a lot of the parables are directly from him, though, because I was telling them last night, parable means, it meant back then, it was from the word parable, and it means compare. It's like parallel bars. It's like lay it side by side and compare. It didn't
Yeah.
really mean some mystery, like we've been taught. Because I know when I went to church, they were like, oh, you got to find the meaning in it. And, it just means compare this, compare this, compare this. And the only thing that they had at that time was the Old Testament. So I've been comparing them to that. And I find there's a big contrast, you know. But I think that's another good way. But I think that statement about the one being from heaven speaking heavenly things and the one from earth speaking earthly is real important. Because that's what I've been working on next, is trying to sort out who's speaking where, like which one is talking. But when you follow John, if you go through the book of John and just like try to follow along, where he's at and where he goes next and all that, you can really see it then. Because it's like, oh man, that was way too far away for him to have been in that area that quick. It's like, because John tells you what day it was on the first day, the second day. He I think he did that on purpose.
Do you think that the accounts in the Bible where it says that Jesus rode the not what was it, the offspring of a donkey? I can't remember. It was like I don't remember what the term is, but rode it into Jerusalem, and they were throwing palm trees and all that. Do you think that was Jesus Barabbas doing those kinds of things, or is that Jesus the Christ? Because there's seems to be discrepancies in the different gospels of how that really happened.
I know there really is. I've noticed that too. I would say that it would probably been the Christ one.
Right. And then what about when Jesus is on the cross and he says, what did he say? Eli, Eli. I can't remember what he said, but my God, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
Was that Jesus the Christ? Because he was calling out to who he thought was his God. But basically what I've always wondered is, did Jesus the Christ have did he repent on the cross and finally realize that he had been following the wrong God?
I'm wondering that too. That's interesting that you said that, because the other account says, "Forgive them, Father, because they know not what they do."
Yeah.
It's like we got two separate accounts on that.
Right.
Then we've got two Jesuses afterwards. We've got one that can be touched and they recognize, and then another one that can't be touched and they don't recognize.
Which one is which one is the one that I've
That's
always
$1
kind of
million question there.
I've always leaned towards what it says in the Gospel of John. And one of the things that pastor said was that in the old, I think it's the 1611 King James Version, it's not even called the Gospel of John, it's called the Record of John.
Right.
And basically he was saying that it's not a gospel, that the other accounts are gospels, but John is the actual record of the real Jesus.
I think it is too. I really do. And they're attacking that book so bad. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
It's like they want to get rid of it. And the rabbis are petitioning, even in lobbying up in Washington, to have them make them put a disclaimer on the Bible itself in the New Testament that it's anti-Semitic.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is the person that I learned these things from, he now claims that he's Jesus Christ in the flesh.
Oh my gosh. Oh, what a mess.
Oh, that's goofy.
Yep.
And he has a following.
I bet you I know who that is. He's on YouTube.
He used to be, but he shut his channel down. Now he
Oh,
has,
did he?
yeah,
Kind of thin guy.
yeah,
I know who that is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Because he started out pretty good when he started
yeah.
looking at it, and then he just kind of like flipped out. I remember that.
I learned a lot of things from him, though,
Oh, I know.
especially the account in the garden. Basically, what he taught was the that the serpent in the garden wasn't a liar, told the truth, and that it was actually Jesus.
I'm not sure about that if it was Jesus or not, but I do know that the serpent was the one. When you look at the results, you know, after the fact, that he was the one that really did tell the truth. You know,
Do you ever listen to Israel Anderson?
I've seen his video. He has a real good one on the garden scene too.
Yeah,
Called something in a snake. What is that
right.
called?
Two gardens and a snake, or
Yeah,
something
that's
like
it.
that, or
That's it. Yeah,
two snakes in a garden, or something.
yeah. Yeah, he goes into great detail on that. He shows what they were told, and then what happens, and who told the truth and who didn't, and
He knows who Yahweh is.
yep.
Whereas the other guy I was talking about, I never did hear him say anything about. I didn't hear that teaching then. I learned that in the past 6 months.
Well, you know where
And
he says, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I worshipped Jehovah for 60 years. I was a Jehovah's Witness. And when I came out of that, woke up from that, it took me about a year to get to maybe a little longer, to get to the point where now I know who Jehovah really is.
I know.
And it is just a mind blower and a life changer.
It's a big life changer. And I think it's like the works of the Father. You know, like Jesus said that he did the works of the Father, and his were healing and raising people from the dead, and you know, hit the cripples and the blind and all that. And then when you look at Yahweh, he's like, is a man not blind, deaf, or mute? Have I not done it? You know, just total
Yeah.
polar opposite. And I think knowing that nature of the real Father versus Yahweh is very, very important to understanding all this, you know.
Well,
There's another way to tell them apart too, because our Jesus said, if they say I'm in the wilderness, it's not me. If they say I'm in the inner chambers, you know, the treasuries, the secret rooms, it's not me.
yeah, and that's why I have a big problem with Paul.
Me too. And Paul pushed the Christ word, you know, everything was Christ Jesus, Christ Jesus. And when I looked at the manuscripts, I go online and because I've been studying Greek for a while now, and I can read the Koine, and I'll go on there and look. And a lot of places in the four Gospels where you've got Christ, it's added in between the lines, like it wasn't there to begin with, you know, like they went back and did an edit. There's some places where it's there, but mostly that's the ones like where he's asking a question or something like that about the Christ. But a lot of places it was added later.
Do you think you will have a something in writing? You know, like one of those pages you make that have all the differences and that will help us to kind of figure it out, kind of like a study guide for who Jesus Barabbas is, and who Jesus the Christ is. What did they say? How to,
We have a PDF on my research. Aline there in the chat, you see her in the chat. If
Yeah.
you'll message her with your email, she can send you the PDF. And then you
Okay,
can go
cool.
through it and read all the different slides I have. It's not complete, but it's a lot of them. It covers this topic is in there.
Okay.
It's pretty large. It's quite a bit of material because I've been researching about 10 years. So.
All right. Well, thank you for your work. I'll go ahead and get out of here so other people can ask questions. I don't want to hog the whole
Okay.
show.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you.
And join us anytime. We have a Discord group too. You're welcome to join there if you'd like to too, where I'm on there almost every day and you can ask questions there too.
Okay. I'll check into it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There's somebody else wanting to come up. Oh, there he is. Come up.
It's me. Sorry.
Would anybody else like?
Because I was inactive.
If anybody else would like to come up, just shoot me a request and we can bring you up for questions. I don't know who all we got listening. Oh, there's tons of people. We got a bunch of people listening. Okay. Let's see, where was I? I was talking about the laws. We did that. And then I was going to talk about what Jesus told us about. In John 8:31, that tells us that he's talking to the Jews in this comment. And when you read it in Greek, it literally says he was talking to the Jews that were thinking him Jewish. They thought he was Jewish, but they didn't translate it correctly. But it says, you are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was an unaliver from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Okay, one thing that we miss from that, number one, it's got to be Yahweh, because he's speaking to the Jews. The second thing is he was a liar from the beginning, which if you're reading it in Greek would be Genesis. So he's literally telling us from the Genesis that all this started. And then we have another place where he specifically calls Moses the accuser, and that's in John 5:45. Do not think that I accuse you to the Father. Your accuser is Moses, the one that you trust. Okay? Well, the word for accuser in Greek is kategoros, and it specifically means a Satan. So he calls Yahweh the devil and Moses Satan, which is pretty interesting. Did anybody else want to come up? Did we see anybody? When I'm reading, I can't watch the screen. And I think, like Shannon was just saying, I think Paul set up the second one, because he says in 2 Corinthians 11:4, for if someone comes and proclaims another Jesus other than the one we proclaim, or if you receive a different spirit than the one you received, or if you accept a different gospel than you accepted, you put up with it enough already. And then he actually says that if somebody does receive that, let them be accursed. So he actually curses people. And that one's in Galatians 1:7, I believe. And this verse always sticks in my brain when I'm thinking of Paul. But if through my lie, God's truth abounds to his glory, why am I being condemned as a sinner? And one thing I didn't realize was that the Judeans, they actually, in Orthodoxy, they believe that it's okay to lie. And they go back. I was watching some of the rabbis do some sermons. They go back to where Jacob deceived his father by putting the skins on the hen. And they say if it's a lie to keep from hurting somebody's feelings or to promote God, that it's okay. Even though in the Ten Commandments, in their Torah, it says don't lie. But they use that to cite as a reason that it's okay because they have a law, because it's still considered law, that part of the scriptures of the Old Testament to them. Trying to think what else I need to tell them. I told them about that. Oh, and this is the verse that I was telling him about that I think he's telling us about which one is which. John 3:31. He that cometh from above is above all. He that is from the earth is earthly and speaks of the earth. He that cometh from heaven is above all. He says it twice. And I told him about John the Baptist being born of a woman.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
So I was reading something yesterday, and I came across the verse where the angel says when it was when Mary Magdalene, she's going to the tomb to anoint and prepare the body.
Yeah.
And the angel's there, and he says, "Why do you seek the living amongst the dead?" I never noticed that before. Did you ever notice that before?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Yep.
Are we dead? That's what I want to know. I mean, because technically we're not born again until we leave this flesh, right?
Right, and yeah, I believe we're in the, he said he was from above and we're from below. Well, the word for below is kato, and it means the underworld.
There was something else I wrote down that I wanted to tell you too about that, and I can find my notes. I wrote it down. I'll come back. I'll think and come back.
Okay. And it's really interesting because all of Yahweh's creation stuff come from up out of the earth. Like Adam, and then like in 1 Samuel 28, when the woman that was the witch of Endor, she calls Samuel up. He comes from out of the earth, and she literally calls him an Elohim in Hebrew, which is a word for God. But everything he does comes up out of the earth, and then when he talks about being born again, that word literally means born from above also.
Yeah. There's another thing too, because so when they were going to anoint the body, it was Mary, the mother of James, and Mary Magdalene. If that was Jesus in the tomb, why wasn't it his mother there? And if Jesus was derobed on the cross and nude when he was crucified, and then to have two women that aren't his mother or his wife to see him like that, that's against their quote unquote Jewish customs. Does that make sense? Unless it's his wife.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know none of the priests could touch him because they're not supposed to touch anybody that's unalived.
Yeah. And she called him Rabboni. Isn't that the longer form of rabbi?
Yeah, and that's
which
a
is Jewish?
special rabbi. That's like a high up rabbi. And see, James the Just was a high priest. There's all kinds of documentation in the Jewish historical papers that he was in the Holy of Holies doing the sacrifices and everything.
Yeah. That's why I think that the Jesus that Mary was going to anoint and whatnot was the other one, was the James, the Christ.
That could be, yeah.
And the other one was resurrected, already alive.
This is like the best whodunit ever to try to figure out who's who and what happened. And like we were going over today over the verse about the sheep, John 10. Have you looked at that? Because sheep are a sacrificial thing. So I was questioning in my mind, well, which one was that? And it's like it had to be Bar-Abba, because it said, then the Jews came around about him and said unto him, how long dost he make us doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. And Jesus answered them and said, I told you, and ye believe not. The works I do in my Father's name bear witness of me. All he was doing was good works. There was nothing negative about what he did. But if you believe me not, believe ye or not. But ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep. As I had said to you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand, which is the same word for rapture. It's harpazo. My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. And I and the Father are one. And then they picked up the stones, wanting to unalive him. So that tells me that had to be Bar-Abba, because I don't think they would have wanted to get rid of the Christ one,
I think they arrested them around the same time.
Yeah, I think they were both in there. And because then the next verse he said, Jesus answered him, said, many good works I have shown you from my Father. For which of those works would you stone me? And the Jews answered, said, for good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy. And because thou being a man makest thyself God. And Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? So he twisted their law back on them at that point, When you read that, though, first, the way it's written, is not written in your law, I said ye are gods. Everybody wants to read that thinking Jesus is the one said that, and that's not what he's saying. He's just quoting what their scripture says, We have to really be thinking when we read this stuff. That's what I've been doing, is just going back and rereading it and thinking about what's being said, who it's being said to. Because there's still a long way to go on figuring all this out.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with fruits too, like you said.
Yeah, the works, the fruits.
Yeah.
That's the bottom. It's the nature of Abba versus the nature of Yahweh. It's like it's so easy to see that part,
That's like when that guy that had the name Shannon, whatever his name was, that nice guy that was just on.
Yeah.
When he was asking who it was on the cross crying out, that definitely wasn't our Jesus, because our Father doesn't forsake us.
No.
Never.
And see, the other one probably would have said, forgive them.
Yeah.
That would have made sense for him to say, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
I don't think our Jesus said anything, though.
Yeah.
I think he was quiet the whole time until the end, and he said it's finished.
Yeah, it could be. Because there were three up there, and we have three different statements.
Yeah. I still would like to know who the third is on the cross.
I think it's James, John, and Barabbas, because
John the Greater?
Well, he said when they wanted to sit on his right and his left, and he said you'd have to drink the cup that I drink, and he was talking about that, I think.
Yeah, that does make sense, because that's what I thought too. After you had said that, and I researched it.
Does anybody else want to come up and have questions or anything, or just want to discuss this? I know we got a lot of people listening. But I'll be glad to bring people up because we want to talk about it, and other people might see other things we don't see.
What's the count outside?
It's pretty high.
Come on in.
It scrolls about 7 times.
If none of you guys want to talk, at least ask some questions in the comments and we'll try to answer them if we see them.
Yeah, you don't have to come up if you just want to ask in the chat. That's fine. You know. Some of them might not want to be seen in my live or something. Because I kind of got a name on TikTok now for... It's the crazy woman that thinks there's 2 Jesuses. It's like...
You're not the only one. All of us on here believe it.
Yep.
Well, can I ask, so we think that Jesus Barabbas was on the cross as well then? Is that what you guys are saying?
I'm thinking he was. And I'm still researching on it. But every indication I had when I went through the Greek indicated that they switched him out. And because of the beating of the face, and then they put like a total head covering over him. And then put the thorns on top, and it's like, and you don't see that in the paintings,
Mm-hmm.
But the text actually says that, and it says that he was a notable prisoner was in there. Well, notable in Greek means marked from above.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So, to me, that indicated that was him. And there's actually a verse in there that indicates that he was, I don't know if I can say that word, the Sodom word, why he was in there.
He was defiled.
He was defiled. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. I cried when I read that part. I was like, oh my gosh.
I never even read it. He just told me in the spirit when I was praying and asking him.
Yeah.
So our Jesus, that happened to him?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
it's
ripped
pretty.
his beard. They spit on him.
And I worked in trauma for many, many years, and we'd have a lot of drug deals gone bad where drug sellers would be beat to a pulp. And I tell you, when they beat the face, you cannot recognize a person. The swelling is so horrendous right away. I mean, it's like any kind of wound to the head causes that too, like a gunshot wound or anything. And I was thinking about how many times they beat him, because it said they beat him that night when they took him in. They beat him in the face. It specifically says. Then it says they beat him in the face again. And I was like, he would have been totally unrecognizable.
Right. And we're thinking that this is Jesus Barabbas that they beat like that.
I think so, yeah.
But did he die though?
Well, I don't think they could actually unalive him. I think he laid his life down and brought it back up.
Okay.
Because he said, I will lay it down and I'll bring it back up. I don't think they would have been able to.
Yeah, this was my original theory, is that they both went to the cross, from
He
what I
probably
read.
went and he put his life down and he pulled it right back up.
And I think he restored James too.
Oh, wow.
Whoever was in the garden with him that they tried to grab, and it says that his robe fell off, or his cloth, and he was naked underneath. Whoever that was in a burial shroud. I don't know if that was Lazarus or who that was. But that word is Sidon in Greek, and it specifically means a burial shroud. There's a guy making big doings about that on YouTube, and he's continuing to go. He's claiming everybody in the Bible was a drug addict, even Abraham.
Yeah, he's a weirdo.
Yeah, it's like
I have
people
to
are
admit,
following him though. It's crazy.
I watch his stuff just because he's goofy, you know. Like I sit there and like, okay, yeah, all right, whatever.
I'm
Then I
still trying to
start,
figure out about his shirt. He wears the
yeah,
same shirt for every time he's
yes,
on.
it's weird.
It's like, why is he in the same shirt?
Bill, have
I
you
mean,
seen who that is?
he's not right in the head, but I watch him for laughs, you know, not to mock him, but I'm just like, wow, what is wrong? I think I'm trying to analyze him because my mind is so analytical like that, and I'm like, what is going on here with this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, he tried to say that Jesus was a lestant, and there's two different lestants. There's one that's a predator, a child like a child predator, and one that's a robber. But the one that's in the text does not have the iota in the middle, so that would be a robber. If it would have to have had an iota in the middle of the word to have been a predator word. So he's wrong on that, and he's supposed to have a PhD in Greek. So I don't know.
I don't think he does.
I'm surprised that some of the scholars on there hadn't come after him. You know, the Christian ones. I'm waiting on that one because there'll probably be a big expose him video eventually.
I can't imagine Bart sitting there with him like that, you know?
Oh, that would be funny.
Yeah, it would.
To see him and Bart in the same room would be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
You got any other questions, Tammy? That was a good one.
Not for now, but I'll be thinking.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Do you remember the context around it? Oh, I'd have to look it up. That's a good question, though. Let me see. See if I can find it. That's in John 10. Let me get over here to English. Oh, that's right after the sheep. That's right after what I just read. That's the context is the sheep thing. And he said, I'm the good shepherd. And, you know, Yahweh says in the Old Testament that he sends out the foolish shepherd that doesn't watch the sheep and all that. And then this Jesus is calling himself the good shepherd. That was another reason I think that it's Barabbas. And he said, where doth my Father love me? Because I lay down my life that I might take it up again. No man take it from me. I lay it down of myself. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it again. This commandment I received from my Father. And then it said after that there was division again among the Jews for these sayings, and many of them said, he has a devil, and he is mad. Why hear him? And others said, these are not the words of him that have a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? See, some of them were realizing the works he were doing had to be divine works. So I would say that's a legitimate claim there, just because of the context it's around. That's a good question, though. What are my thoughts on the Mandela effect of the Bible changes? I've considered it. I'm not sure, though. It's a lot to look at. What gives him that ability? Well, Pocket in the oldest manuscripts, when it says only begotten son, in the oldest manuscripts, it literally says oldest begotten Theos, or God. So I believe that he was divine. Of course, how many of us could just come down into this world, and do the things he did? So it's like, that would make sense too. I wonder if that was the other Jesus that was saying that a wicked generation expects a sign, and no sign will be given except the sign of Jonah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was him.
Yeah, because that would have been Yahweh's Testament books, So I think that may have been the other one. And the good one was doing good works, He was doing signs that, like, wow, Like I mentioned to him last night too. I'll tell in case there's different people here. But it's like in the Old Testament, Yahweh's like, don't bring any lame people, blind people, anybody with defects. I don't want them near my temple. I don't want them anywhere near me. And see, Jesus is polar opposite. It's like, if you're sick or you're blind, come here and I'll fix it. I'll heal you. And he even said in one of the verses that it's so the works of the Father would be manifested, that they would know. And he said that too when he raised Lazarus, didn't he? I think he did. So that the works of the Father would be known.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of Yahweh stuff in the Old Testament, it's like people don't get any afterlife in a lot of what he's written. It's like, it says that they leave their stuff, their belongings to their children, They accumulate wealth, but then they leave it to their children in Psalms. So the Son of the Father is coming back to save everyone from the wrathful. That's interesting to question too. Because he said he goes to prepare a place for us, that where he is, we may be there also. And he said he would return, Now, whether all of us make it, till that time period is actually going to happen or not, I don't know. But he did say that we pass from death to life. So it's like the minute you draw your last breath, that's probably why a lot of people see Jesus. I see Jesus, and then they're gone,
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's their last statement on their mouth, is that they see him. And I figure that's why, because he's right there ready to say, come on, let's go.
Yep.
You're done here.
As quick as you close your eyes to blink it and open it, you're with him.
That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there's
As
just
long
too,
as... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
there's too many near-death experiences too
Yeah.
that testify to that.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting some good questions tonight. Questions make me have to think. That's good. Ain't that the truth, Sally? Anybody else think of any?
I was looking to make sure we didn't miss any.
I know.
I
I don't like to miss people just because they're in chat, because it took me forever to get where I could even go up and ask a question or get in a box and talk.
Mm-hmm.
So the washed in the blood thing, I don't think the washed in the blood thing is right. It's like, now that I know all this, it very much bothers me. I mean, can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are actually old pictures of crucifix where they have a hole in his side and they're holding a cup and grabbing it to drink it.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's gross.
It's all sacrificial stuff, which is
Yeah.
Yahweh.
And I think that was the Christ one that was up in that room, because it's like, when he dipped the bread in the salt and handed it to him, then the devil entered him. It's
Yeah.
like, I can't see Barabbas doing that,
Mm-mm.
And I can't believe, I don't believe he would have believed in cannibalism either. I'm sorry, Sally. I'm sorry. Oh, man. What perspective on the way, the truth, and the lie? I think that it is through studying these words of his, because he said heaven and earth would pass away, but his words would never pass away. And I think that he left us all the answers within these words, and they grabbed them up and used them, but we still have his words. Yeah, it sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? The Old Testament sounds like Santeria to me. Baptism feels ritual.
It is.
What worries me is this thing about him saying he strictly forbade nobody to ever call him the Christ. And we've got so many people walking down a Christ consciousness thing
Mm-hmm.
and thinking they're gods and
Yeah, and trying to elevate that crystal oil out of their kundalini.
yep.
That stuff's scary. That's allowing demons in.
It's a different way of looking at things, and I just don't agree with it. And then we got a bunch that think everything is completed, that the entire Bible is done, it had nothing to do with us. So many different opinions. I've got somebody wanting to come up.
Somebody said, so you said he left the words for you in the book? I'm not sure what that's about. Let me scroll up and see if there's more to it.
He said that heaven and earth would pass away, but his words would never pass away.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we'll ever be without them. It's like, because we can still go back to like that Codex Sinaiticus I go look at online. That goes way, way back, and I can still read the Koine Greek, and if they did make a change, it shows, because I can tell, like, when they put those words in between the line, you can even tell the ink wasn't the same. It's like somebody went back, either they made a mistake, and they were trying to put it back right, or else they were adding something, one of the two. And there's no way to know that for sure, but it was just very suspicious that so many times that Christ word was not correctly in there,
Hi, Lily.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good.
Do you
How
have
are
any questions, Lily?
What is it that makes y'all think he deceives the world?
I think it was Yahweh that deceived the world. It's like, I was watching a video, and this guy was taking Revelation, and he kept going back to Yahweh, and he kept saying, Satan imitates Yahweh, Satan imitates God, and he was going back and pulling things from the Old Testament and comparing them. And it just dawned on me. I was sitting there, I was like, oh my gosh, it's not that Satan imitates God, it's that God is Satan. It's like, it just, because it matches almost exact. It's like a lot of people don't know a lot of the stuff that's in there. It's like the one that speaks like a lamb, looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon. Well, Moses, when he went up on the hill and came down, we've got in English that his face shone, or was like radiating. And in Hebrew, it literally says he grew horns. And the people were afraid of him because he had horns on his face. It says, John calls the guy, the red dragon, the great dragon. Well, if you read 2 Samuel 22, Yahweh is described exactly like a dragon. Says he bent or perverted heaven, was made to come down, and he had hot coals coming out of him and eyes like fire, and he was wrapped in thick darkness and lightning. And we're told that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. And then we got Jesus telling us that he falls like lightning. So a lot of it you can compare back and forth, and you're just going, wow. The two witnesses call down fire from heaven, and we know when James and John wanted to call down fire on that city because they wouldn't accept Jesus, he rebuked them and told them they didn't know what spirit they were from. But then you've got Elijah and Moses calling down fire and unaliving people for Yahweh. And let's see. Trying to think of some of the other comparisons. Oh, the 666. Both Yahweh and Christos both come to 666 in Gematria. And I believe that the actual lettering for 666 is in Nomosaicum for Christos, which is Christ. Its initials in the text throughout the Bible, they took out the names and they put in initials. And everywhere they put an initial in the Koine Greek, they write a line across the top so you know it's a name. And the 666 has a line across the top. So I believe it is the initials. It's a Christogram for Christ. And Christ comes to 666. And Paul, like when he
That's
said,
the Antichrist, my boy.
yeah, Paul says, let no man bother me, because I bear the marks of Christ now. Well, when you look at that word for bother in Greek, it means in buying and selling. He literally had tattoos, is what he had done. They still do that in the Greek Orthodox today. They do them in the middle of their forehead, and they do them on their hand. And Yahweh also has the thing with the telfa box on the forehead. And on the side of it is a shin in Hebrew. And a shin, the rabbis, if you read about it, will tell you that shin is a 666. It's three vowels thrown together. And then when they do the wrapping of the arm with the cord, they wrap it 6 times. Everything Yahweh does is in sixes, like when he creates in Genesis, he created in 6 days and then he rests. I'm trying to think of the others. Oh, the 666, it's got talents of gold in Solomon, Solomon's talents of gold. You read it in Hebrew, it's a round loaf of golden bread. And it denotes a division of time, it says. Well, it's really strange because from the time they set up the Christ Eucharist in the veneration of the Eucharist in the Catholic Church to today has been exactly 666 years. Moses is mentioned exactly 666 times in the Old Testament. It's like a sacred number to them. I listen to a lot of rabbis trying to figure out the Old Testament, and they tell on themselves a lot when they're talking.
I think they definitely know the truth.
Oh yeah, they know.
They know what it is.
They've even been talking about the two Jesuses lately. What else did you want to know, Lily?
Well, is there like any other religion in this world that you feel like is deceiving, or is it just Christianity?
I think the whole world's been deceived, and I think it's been done through the worship of Yahweh, because you got your three Abrahamic, religions, and they basically that's the mainstay of world religion today. So they've got everybody going back to Yahweh.
Not exactly. If you're talking about Judaism or Islam, they do not believe in Jesus the Messiah.
Right, but they still believe in Yahweh, which the church tells us Yahweh is Jesus.
They believe in the Old Testament, but they don't believe in the New Testament.
Right. But they still put the Christ figure there as though it's tying him back to Yahweh, which I don't think he had anything to do with him.
No, if you ask them that, they won't say that.
What? That? No, I know.
No, because it's not centered around them. I guess it's just, there's other religions besides the three.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And look at the characters. Look at and compare all those with Yahweh and the Elohim and everything. It's all Yahweh worship.
What about
All
Buddhism?
Krishna, all of them. Yeah.
What about Buddhism?
Hold on one second.
What about Hinduism?
Hinduism, yeah, definitely.
Definitely what?
Krishna,
That's
same
Christian?
type of just same dualistic nature, same
No.
God.
It's actually kind of different because what's similar, which I shouldn't have to explain this because y'all all know it, between a Jew and a Christian and a Muslim is that they all believe in one God, correct?
Well, they say that, but Judaism originally and always was polytheistic.
But
It's always been a polytheistic religion.
It's one God.
I know they say that now, but originally, and even rabbis will tell you this.
In Buddhism, do they have one God?
Oh,
In Hinduism, do they have one God?
no.
Okay, so there's a difference. So do you think those two religions, do you think they deceive the world in any kind of way? I sound like AI. That's so funny.
Do they just what? Say that again.
She's asking about the other Western religions.
No, this ain't. Hinduism and Buddhism are not Western religions. I'm asking, so do y'all think that it's just Christianity is the only religion that's deceiving the world? I'm just trying to understand the.
I think the entire world's been deceived
By other religions?
Even those, yeah. Because he said all that ever came before him were thieves and liars.
But what y'all want to come up here and talk about is Jesus. You ain't going to talk about anybody else. That's what you want to talk about, Jesus.
He could claim to be the Father and claim to be the truth. It's going to be hard pressed to find another spiritual leader or prophet that claimed those things and actually did the works.
Or actually died and was resurrected and all that.
So there's a big difference.
Yeah,
Eastern, I'm sorry, not Western.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much gone global, all the way around. Because there's a lot of people that are even in underground churches in China that believe, even in countries where they're persecuted, they still, believe in him.
They were persecuted just as Jesus was.
Yep.
I just think I guess I try to understand why people are just, they don't want to talk about other, it's so specific about Jesus.
I used to be Wiccan.
And they don't want to talk about other religions that can deceive. How can you say Jesus deceives the whole entire world when there's other religions? Why does it have to be always Christianity that people come at?
Well, I'm saying there are two Jesuses, that there was not just one. It's like there was one that was deceptive and one that was real. Because if Christians literally read what Jesus said, they would never call him the Christ. I mean, never.
Yeah, that's a bad title.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know why y'all come up here and why is it always about Jesus? Why do people have such a problem with Jesus when there's so many other religions that people could pick on? Why is it always Jesus that people want to pick on?
Because he claimed to be the Father.
No, he claimed to be the Savior of the world.
Well, that too.
So why don't y'all pick on these other ones that say that you're cow? What about
We
people
don't
that
want
say?
to. We don't want to pick on anybody.
I'm not picking on anybody.
Well,
It's
I'm
like
just saying targeting. Why
I'm
don't
not
y'all
targeting
target?
anybody either. I'm
Okay,
just trying to tell them
you
that
got a
they haven't
picture?
looked at what their actual book says.
Okay, so what about, do y'all ever talk to a Buddhist about these kind of things about them?
There's been all types of people that have come through.
Yeah, we've had all kinds. We've had people that are Scientologists even come in here and talk to us.
Atheists, Satanists,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, it's real curious when you see so many people on TikTok that their main thing is always going against Jesus. It ain't no other religion. It's always Christianity.
I'm not
We
going
believe in
against
Jesus.
Jesus.
Okay, so what's your prompt mean?
The prompt means there's two of them. One of them was evil and one of them was good.
Normally she has Yahweh and the Father up there, not that picture. But
Yeah.
It's just very interesting.
Because most people don't even see that there's two.
We talking about the Antichrist in Revelations?
Yeah, because when you look at Revelation, the first 3 words of the book of Revelation say the revealing of Jesus Christ. It's like people don't even, it's like, I told them, I said, it's like they read right over stuff. It's like it took me forever to see this stuff. I'm 64 years old.
So you're saying that when Jesus comes back, or do you think before Jesus comes back about the Antichrist?
well, there's people that come in that have said that they already think he's come in 70 AD. We've talked with those people as well.
Yeah, have you been in any of those where they think that he's already come? And they think they're in the new heaven and new earth right now?
Oh, like a Jehovah's Witness or something?
No, it's a new thing. They think
I'm
that.
sorry, I had to laugh at that one. That was good.
But they do. They literally think that, and they have their verses they pull and everything for it. But I don't see that because I told them, and they think that they are. They call it Christ consciousness. They think that they are Christ. They become Christ.
Yeah, that's some strange stuff. I'm a Christian. Okay, obviously, proud of it. But yeah, there's some so-called Christians on here it is very, very strange. They believe that, like you said, like they are God. They are
You
Christ.
know, my
And it's
question to
like,
them is what world did you create? What have you created lately?
yeah, and it's like, how did you live perfectly?
And then I ask him, I say, well, if you are like him, why aren't you over at the hospital healing everybody?
Exactly.
Nobody should be in pain. Nobody should be sick,
Oh yeah, I mean it's strange. The people that it is very strange. It's scary.
And see, I don't call myself a Christian. I call myself a follower of Jesus Barabbas.
Right. I get that.
Yeah.
It definitely. I wouldn't say I'm part of any denomination. I grew up, as part of one, but that's just how I was raised. But getting older and learning things on your own and reading the Bible and figuring things out that never was taught in church.
Right. We were all at different levels too. It's like, if you'd have asked me all this 5 or 6 years ago, I probably would have went, what? And I'd have been scrambling trying to figure out what you were talking about. That's one reason I'm doing this is because, it's stuff that I never thought I was going to see. And it's like,
Well, it's just questions. I think that, we all ask, we all believe, if, like, I believe in the Word of God, but there's things that I have questions about. And it's not like I'm trying to discredit anything about any, what it's saying. It's just like the dead in Christ shall rise first. So where are these saved people right now? Is just their spirit in heaven? If
well,
their
see,
heavenly
then you
body's
got
not?
Jesus and John saying that you pass immediately from death to life.
Right. So how I'm taking it is that like that's just your spirit is in heaven, and then after Jesus comes back, our spiritual bodies will go up.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
she's
you know
saying
what
that
it
there's
is?
two
Yeah.
contrasting things being said, is what she's saying.
She's talking about the rejuvenation of the souls that Paul talks about in Titus 3:5. Because people that believe in Christ, you're going to be rejuvenated back here, is what he's telling people, but
And
nobody
see,
really sees it.
Paul was a Pharisee too, and they believed that when a person unalives, they lay in the grave to the final judgment day, and till the day of the Lord. And I don't believe that because I believe Jesus' words that the minute you draw your last breath here, that
Say like
you
when Jesus comes
cross
back,
straight over to him.
like say like the rapture as we call it. When Jesus comes back, before the believers that are living on earth, they'll be ascended into heaven and won't so the ones that are already dead, and it says the dead in Christ shall rise first.
That's what I mean. See, that's contrary to what Jesus told us. I have a hard time with Paul because, to begin with, Paul's works were behind Revelation as historical content. And then as the years went by, they moved them into the actual scriptures. And now they've become mainstream as to what is taught in the churches. Like, if you go pick up a track on how to be saved, you'll see that almost every verse in there is a quote from Paul. You might have John 3:16 as the one token verse from Jesus, or from the Gospels. And so things have changed over the years in the way that the actual scriptures themselves were looked at.
Right.
And so I'm kind of leery of using Paul, especially my gauge with Paul is I think he says some good things and some things that are not right. But it's like, if it doesn't stack up with the red letter text of Jesus, then I just leave it alone. Because to me, Jesus is the final authority, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially like when I try to like witness to people, I try to take out the gospels as much as I can.
Yeah, Paul says some horrendous things, like that thing where he's wanting all the men to be cut off, It's like, I'm like, oh, gross. There's some things in there that really didn't sit right with me. And he's the one that set up the Christ thing, too. If you read Acts 19, it says that they're vagabond Jews were making people denounce the Lord Jesus and swear an oath to the Jesus that Paul taught. So there was definitely two Jesuses in the first century, and they were trying to get one group to go with the other group, And that's when the name change big time happened too, because every other word, Paul, is Christ this, Christ, 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 Christ. And you don't find it that many times in the gospel, and many times if you go to the manuscript, it's not even there. Or if it is there, it was added in between the lines, like the originals. And I know a lot of people don't dig that deep, but
I was going to address, sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
I was going to address what Fourth Gen was saying, and that's the thing. If you get on these TikToks and you listen to all these different people in here, oh, is my dog out? Oh my gosh! Hold on one second. Sorry. Hold on.
His baby had surgery, so he's not wanting her out there by herself yet.
Sorry about that. What I was going to say is that if you're on these TikToks and you're listening to everybody, Jen, it's clear to see that there's a lot of things where people are saying, well, Jesus said this, and then there's all these contradictions they've been arguing over for hundreds and hundreds of years. And this is why we're saying what we're saying, because we're trying to address the contradictions. There's a truth there. But yeah, we're acknowledging those contradictions that I think a lot of people, we have an answer for that middle line that like the Muslims will say about things, and other people have their opinions about what Jesus said, the New Agers, even the Jews. So,
The Hebrew Israelites.
yeah, like everybody's got. You can go one way or another with what Jesus says. That's why these arguments have been going on for hundreds of years. And when you see the contradictions, you're like, okay, he's clearly contradicting himself in a couple places. So if to address that, well, we didn't realize it until we saw at the trial. It's like, oh, there's Jesus Barabbas and Jesus who they call the Christ. And once we saw that, it's like, hold on a second, let's go back and reanalyze a lot of these things. Who was closest to Jesus? John. So we wanted to look through John a lot closer because we think he really understood the Son of the Father. We think he was the one. I have to go and get my dog, but I'll be back. I'll be right back.
Okay. I think John is. They say that Mark was written first. I don't know how they come up with that. I mean, I've looked at all the manuscript stuff, and it's like John. We have the oldest manuscripts of John of any of the books. It's like, to me, it had to have been written first.
And from my understanding that he was beloved, Jesus really loved him. And that's the same John that wrote Revelations, right?
That's debated back and forth. That some scholars think that, yeah, they did, and then other scholars think, no, it wasn't the same John. But I have to ask a question on Revelation. It's like, why would Jesus come, say that the Father wished that no man would perish, and he said that all that believed in him would have eternal life, and then say it was finished on the cross, and then no, but he's coming back, later and going to.
Didn't Jesus say before, didn't he say that he was going to come back?
He said the Son of Man would come back. That you would see the Son of Man. And Son of Man is not Son of God.
So, do you believe in Revelations?
I believe that it may happen because he said that he's in Matthew 24, he said those that endure to the end will be saved. And it's like, but I think that it's not him that's actually going to be doing all that evil. Because coming back and having blood up to the saddle pockets and pouring out.
He's coming, but his believers are not going to have to go through that. His believers aren't going to be going through that. It's the people that rejected him.
I don't believe that he would
unalive.
I don't think he would do that.
Well, it says Jesus isn't going to come back till everybody had an opportunity to know about him. So I don't think he's coming. He's coming back to hurt. If you believe in Jesus, you ain't got nothing to worry about when it comes to those end times. It's the people that rejected him that are going to have to worry and going to have to live through it. And they actually have 7 years to get themselves back straight.
Good evening.
If you don't have that mark of the beast, that you won't be able to buy or sell or trade. It's kind of to me, I think the COVID, the Fauci was a precursor to that. They try to make it right here in this. I mean, we saw how easy this government can have control. It's not going to be like a religious control. It's going to be a government control when it comes to the mark of the beast. Put your faith in the government, not me.
It has to be something they worship and something
Well,
they accept on their
well,
own.
it's something. No,
Hmm.
it don't. There's a lot of people that don't worship nothing. There's a lot of people that just rather put their faith in government than into the Lord. And when people, I think that partiality was a lot of it. I mean, you were told you couldn't go here, be there, work here, do this, and people lined up to do it. And that shot didn't do nothing for anybody to waste. It's actually hurt people. That's fact. A lot of
With you.
people. So, I mean, it's not going to be a. It's not going to be in their faces. Oh, this religion kind of thing. No, it's going to be. Are you going to depend on God to take care of you? You going to put your trust in Him? Or are you going to put your trust in what this government tells you to do? And just be a good boy and girl and do what they say. So you don't have no problem. So you can still eat and have a job and do whatever.
Right. It could be the script, though, that these world governments are trying to agree on and play out in front of us as well.
Exactly. And it, in the New Testament, in Revelation, I mean, it speaks about the powers of the East and the powers of the North. What powers are those? That's Russia and China. They will be the last powerful governments in the world.
Shannon, can you mute your mic? Or unless you want to talk. I just think we're getting a lot of background noise from your mic.
I'm sorry, I didn't even know I joined.
It's okay, you're here. Just think we're seeing a pretty stark contrast, though, between Revelation Jesus and the Jesus we're reading about in John and the Gospels. It's, and I know they take that one verse out of context. Well, they just totally mistranslate it. It's not even out of context. Where they'll always say, "Oh, he said he didn't come to bring peace, but to bring the sword." But what it really says in the oldest Greek is, "I didn't come to cast out peace, but to cast out the sword." So for him to say that, and then all of a sudden he's coming back with a sword and he's doing everything against what he said, I think that the Christ is the one that Revelation is talking about. It says the revealing of the Christ. Whereas the Son of the Father was healing people. He wasn't unaliving anybody. He wasn't cursing anybody. He was showing us the works of the Father. No man had ever heard his voice or seen his face at any time before that. And that was hard for a lot of them to hear those things because they thought that they maybe knew, but the way he's saying it isn't, the world did not know him.
Yeah, because when you read Exodus, it's like Moses met Yahweh at the burning bush, and there's like, within 2 or 3 chapters, there's like 5 times he said that he talked to him. One of them even says he talked to him face to face, as a man speaks to a man. And it's like, but yet, we're told in John that nobody's ever heard his voice or seen his form. It's like, so which is it? It's not the same Father. And the works is what I look at. It's like
She dropped
Jesus. Oh, she gone?
off. You got somebody else up here pocket hopping.
Yeah, I tried to get Pocket to talk. Pocket, you got something you want to talk about?
I have a question.
To listen and learn. I was going to ask a couple questions, but go ahead, Shannon. Go ahead, Shannon.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
Do you think that Abba Father or Jesus, the real Jesus, can be found in the book of Revelation? Is there anywhere in there where we can read that and say that's that's our Father, or that's Jesus and not the Christ and not Yahweh?
That's a good
You've got a,
question.
you've got another guest requesting, but
Okay.
I don't see Barabba in Revelation, and John's talking about being scared. He wasn't scared of Barabba. I don't, Oops. Oh gosh, dropped me.
I would refer back to what the hosts referred to with regards to the Son of Man, as opposed to
The Son of the Father. Who is playing Zelda right now?
I'm sorry, that's my it's kind of what I listen to. It's just
Oh, okay.
music, bro. I'm sorry.
I knew that song.
I good catch. Yeah, actually, Zelda is a very interesting story in itself, and you want to draw parallels. What is supposed to be the culmination of this series was released last year, and it is in reference to the culmination of the kingdom, and it's called the Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, anyways, I would revert back to again what the host said with regards to the reference to the Son of Man, which is an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, because the Son of Man and the Son of the Father, that sounds like two totally different things. And why would he be referring to himself in the third person in that one during the trial like that? It doesn't really make any sense. It says, oh yeah, you'll see the Son of Man coming in the clouds, but he was the Son of the Father, not the Son of Man.
If I were to think about it, right, and just try to explore a perspective, it's kind of a few of you have touched on it earlier, going around to a lot of these lives and seeing the things discussed, the nature in which they're discussed, and then the division through labels. But that's why I asked the earlier host about your perspective on the way, the truth, the light. And you did touch on the, the whole thing of the chakra stuff and Christ consciousness, which I've studied. But from my perspective, what I try to, the lens that I try to stay to is, what did he do, right? Yeah, what did he say? And then that gets jumbled up. But like, what do we think about? I would ask you guys, like, what do you think about, when the year of Jubilee, when his parents leave him and they didn't even realize that they had left him? Do you remember what he said when they came back and found him? Does anybody know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, where he said that he must be about his father's work. That he was where he was supposed to be.
Yeah, when they asked him where he was at and they were worried about him. Do you remember what he said?
Not exact words. Do you recall them off the top of your head, or I'd have to look. I think it's Luke 3. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't want to, misquote or anything, because then there's also, you're going to come down to versions, but translations and things like that say that he was in his father's house.
Yeah,
Why
no,
are
that
you worried about me? You were worried. You were worried about me. Didn't you know that I was at my father's house?
Yeah, it says, did you not know that I had to be in my father's house? But they did not understand the statement which he had made to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and he continued in subjection to them. And his mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus kept increasing in wisdom and stature in the favor with God and men.
Right. So, if I'm gonna look at that, right, what happens to him after? Does anybody really know where did he go when he was a teenager, when he was a young man, before?
There's some books that they say talk about his thing. I read a couple of them, and they were quite unusual. But I guess just because I had never read them before. But um, there's got to be some kind of documentation of his early childhood, But I would
Right.
say that was probably the Christ one, since he was in the temple teaching,
But before he was teaching, that's what I mean. Like in between those two pieces, where'd he
Mm-hmm.
go? I mean, because from some accords, you would say he went to go, meet with some of the secret schools, things like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Just a peculiar thing.
Now,
Interesting.
when they call him let's see, boy, or in that, I looked that up in Greek, and it was like a servant boy, almost like a slave.
Right.
I thought that was interesting too.
But I mean, okay, so if are we all not, what does the term Lord mean in, in translation?
Master.
And so if the Father is referenced in the manner, what would you be as a child of his?
Never thought of a child as being a servant. Maybe that's a cultural difference, but I just haven't.
Well, I mean,
Because
think
it
about
says
it
the
from the
boy
lens in the world
Jesus
that we grow up in now.
stayed behind in Jerusalem. And when you look up that word for boy, it means like a servant.
I understand. I'm just saying, so that makes me wonder about, as people, to, what we're doing right now. What are the systems that we adhere to as younger people going through our age of development? At some point, we all end up as a servant in a few different factions. Would you disagree?
I think we do kind of, but it's like when you look at John and you keep going back to John, it's like he said, I no longer call you servant, I call you friend.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But I no longer.
Yeah, true.
I just, there's always more there, right? I think it's very important that there's a reference to the way being the first line item in that statement, I guess, prior to the truth and the light. But if that, I could also connect that to what you said earlier when he left his words and in the book for you, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
So if we're going to believe, right? Well, as he touched on to, I guess we'll reference the story of Barak and Balaam.
Say that last statement again.
Do you know the story of Barak and Balaam? Or is it Balaam? I'm sorry. Like again, I'm not trying to like quote anything directly. I'm not trying to make a statement of factuality here. Okay, But doesn't Jesus reference that story? The I guess you want to call him a magician or whatever. You know, they attempted to get him to do bad against or curse the people of Israel in some manner.
Balaam in the Old Testament.
But what does he say? You know, he references that story because that man, although he was not, you know, a full-on believer and practitioner of everyone else in Israel and everything else, he was someone that was hired to do something. And I guess if I recall correctly, it was to the serpent, the bronze serpent statue. Is that correct? Or if you've been bit by a snake and you go touch that thing, you'll be fine, or something.
Right.
Like that. But what is it when Jesus is referencing that? What is the whole message of what he's trying to tell you? I guess
I think that they would lift him up and put him on a pole just like they did the serpent.
Right, but they told him, go touch that pole and then you'll be fine. If you were bit or something like that, right? But I think when Jesus references that, it's kind of like him referring back to as he does many a time, faith first. If I tell you to go do this thing and you don't believe it's going to happen, do you think it's going to happen?
So what's your main point of all this? Because we've gone through several different stories now. I just want to make sure I'm getting the main gist of what you're trying to say.
Right, before we can get through the first part of into the way, wouldn't we have to put faith first in the Father?
Yeah, I think that was pretty, succinct when he said whoever believed in him would have eternal life.
I agree. I also, it just makes me ponder questions as I go through rereading. You can read anything out of the book many a time as your life progresses. When you come back, it's going to have more depth and meaning if you continue to study. Also, with going back to like you do as well with the Koine Greek and Hebrew translations, and understanding of etymology and things of that nature. But if you're going to have faith first, right? And then if you try to live in the way, I believe he left you the blueprint in that book.
What do you think the blueprint is?
I think the blueprint would be trying to look at what he did, like actually did, as a whole, like it.
Well, he healed people. He told parables. He didn't really keep their laws and he said his father was still working, on the Sabbath, so his father was not Yahweh.
But it wasn't not normal works, right? The works that were.
He said, "The works I do tell you of the Father," and he was healing, and that's when he said it. He said it 4 times in one passage.
Right, because doesn't the Sabbath refer to not doing normal works, like works that make your brother work, or go to a place where they have to work and do things of that nature?
I
Is
don't
that
think he taught the Torah at all.
okay? I'm, like I said, I'm just trying to gain perspective from you and in your research and your experience and your knowledge, because what is your? I guess I would ask, what is your perspective on the story of the talents?
When he told the parable of the talents, I would think that was the Christ one because that's an earthly thing. He said the earthly one speaks of earthly things and the heavenly one speaks of heavenly things. He was
And
giving
so
us a clue as to which one was talking about what.
I agree. I also think he ran the perfect score. I wonder, it was that he let. That's what I mean by he left you the blueprint. But as fleshly beings, as we're here currently, right? We are not going to be able to do that, right? In different parts of the book, what it doesn't tell you, it's not your job to judge someone, but to forgive them and love one another.
That was the big thing. He was like, a new commandment I give you to love one another as I have loved you.
I think that also connects into the, the ways where they reference I don't know. Hold on. Let me think about that. Say that differently.
No, you got good questions. You've brought up a lot of really good things tonight, actually. I wish more people would say these things and ask these things.
Yeah, me too.
Because this is even helping for us, making us rethink about it again. We want these outside perspectives enough to where it's like, and you're extremely respectful too, which I appreciate that a lot as well.
I try. I mean, that's the first. I think that's the first step. I'm not
too.
perfect. Yeah, like I said,
Me neither.
that's
I'm not
him, bro.
perfect
He
at all.
ran the perfect score, not me. But if I'm gonna rely on faith, and I'm gonna have faith in the Father first, right? Try to use the blueprint and do my best to go that way.
I think that's why the water, it's just, everything's been muddied up a little bit, and now we're seeing this now. I think a lot of people knew this at the beginning, but they had no way of, reading or writing. And there was a couple people that talk about it, though, so it's not like it's just totally out of pocket. So.
Please don't tell. It's not out of me, man. Sorry, you tickled me with that one. That's a double entendre. I have studied when I was younger, and then I went off into the world and I studied lots of these other things that people still talk about. And
I've done the same thing, so I'm there with you. I've studied a lot of things outside of this, but I've always come back to this. I've come back to Jesus and his words. There's something about it that just rings very true to me that I want to live my life by.
if there's one thing that I can attest to, as far as, giving testimony in my life, in one tiny little nugget, which has never allowed me to change my ultimate underlying belief, is that anytime, no matter how bad things were going for me, whether it was my fault or not, I prayed and I believed. And in the worst time, when I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go do this instead then, or attempt to do it on my own, he always showed up in the way that I couldn't even make up with the best writers in the world. So my youth pastor changed my life. I was in a bad situation when I was a teenager. I was taken away from my family with my brother, and the place we're in was not very good. And I went to tell him, like, all right, I got a plan. We're going to do this, and we're going to go tomorrow night. This is what we're going to do. And the next morning, my youth pastor showed up and got us out of where we were. And we went to live with him for a short period of time. This man had no kids. He was newly married. And I was messed up. You know, I was the older brother that took the brunt of stuff. And even then, things that I did and stuff, he showed me what I believe was the way. He showed me those principles that were founded in love, in the way of the Father, in the way that he loved his son.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you.
Without telling me, here, this is what I'm doing and why, et cetera, and didn't judge me for anything, didn't even like confront me on every single thing. He just dropped the perfect nuggets and let me go, grow. And I did heal a lot from that. And he got me a book for me and my brother with our names on them. And at one point when I was, on the cusp of getting out of the youth sector and going into college type years, he asked me to teach. And I was scared. And I told him, no, I'm not ready. I tried to prepare for that, and I didn't. And I went off in the world. I never left that, I went around. I had plenty of things to go through, and it was not a good time. I always kept it with me. I still have it to this day.
Yeah.
That's 20-something years ago. And even in my own home, at points, I was told that you're an idiot. This is, that's not how things work. It's the Big Bang Theory or die. It's almost had to, even if I wanted to read at some point, I had to do it on my own. And even if I wanted to talk to people about it, it wasn't ever received. And so I didn't. I just kept to myself, and even like to the point where people would be like, what are you doing? Because I would give thanks before every meal. In silence, I'll sit and, whatever, and bow my head and, in my opinion, talk to my Father. So I got to the point where I didn't care anymore. When people would try to interrupt me, or they would ask who I would be sitting with, what is he doing? Oh, he's fine. Just, they eventually accepted and said he's praying. Just, he does it before every meal, leave him. So even now, I feel like that's come back around again. I can't even, I have learned some more things, okay? I've learned a lot of more things. And I touched on that earlier, my trying to understand of where did he go? Didn't he go to the secret schools with the Magi? Didn't he go visit the people in India and the Buddhists and talk with them and learn their culture and things like that? I don't know what 100% full accounts are real, and it's going to tell you like, oh, here's exactly what he did. So I can't tell you it's a step by step in the blueprint. But I feel like there's some things that he didn't tell us all the way because that was part of his plan. And I think that's the importance of why all of us have different perspectives on this. It just kind of ties into loving your neighbor like yourself, and treating them in the way the golden rule is the golden rule for a reason. You got to love and forgive and help grow because he created all of you too. And
I agree with you.
I think it's just that simple.
Is very important to me. The 99 to 1 is very important to me. I hold that one dear. So.
And also, it's just like your youth pastor and things. We're not saying that all these Christians are just, they don't even understand or they don't get it. No, I think that Father is in a lot of them. They just,
I agree.
Because they're fruits and things, like you can just see that they've got the love of Father. It's just very apparent. Now, because we kind of listen to our churches, but see how you've been saying things like we don't worship this book. We don't, we're trying to actually talk to Father too ourselves all the time and get that guidance and get that, what's right, what's wrong sometimes. Because if you're going to trust in the church or trust in the book, I think that's not very smart. Jesus didn't say, I'm going to make this book for you and just follow everything in that, because if we're doing that, we're going to have a lot of confusion.
Right, which is, I agree, which is why he was flipping tables. That's what I mean by that's also part of the blueprint. He was like, get your stuff together, bro. Get it together. But that always it is a never ending revert back to faith. Okay, faith first, in the Father first. Then what did he do when he sent his son, right? What did the son do? He tried to emulate and basically channel it through in a way that was shown to everybody, and everyone else is going to write down their perspectives on it. At the end of the day, did not every word that's written in that book get written down by a man? A person? Did a person actually write it down, scribe it on a tablet, put it on a scroll, put it in a book? Didn't a person actually do that? You see? So I don't know. It is my belief, and this I will stand, that we are all here to help each other in the way that he tried to show us, because he did try to show up for everyone, even the people that were wronging him when it wasn't his fault. But I love that you touched, on a lot of things tonight that kind of pull some of this stuff together for me, because he doesn't get tired, so he doesn't break his promises. And if you mess up, he'll let you sit there in your mess ups for as long as you want. And, he's not going to save you if you turn away from him, right? And I think that has a deeper message than just condemnation, right? From your peers and your brothers and sisters, because aren't we all his creation? That's not our job to condemn other people and judge them. And
I think so.
Yeah, we're not supposed to condemn anybody. I'm just trying to bring to light something I saw in here that I don't think most people have seen.
We know that there's just people from all walks of life. There's people that have come to these sort of conclusions from a totally different path of where we've come from, and research it in a totally different way, and then they're seeing the same things. And I think that that's meant to be. I think that I get that there's all these people from all different walks of life, and we're all trying to figure things out. There's a lot of us here that are searching. We really want to know. We don't have the answers to everything, but I have appreciated everything that you said, and the way you've taken time to say everything.
Yeah, very much
makes a lot
so.
of sense.
Yep.
So you're speaking to people that are definitely listening to you.
That's all praise to the Father. That even right now, like I can't, like that's just not me. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm going through a lot of stuff, man. Even right now, but it's not my burden
Don't
to
worry,
cast
me
onto other
too.
people.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the girl I was with for almost 12 years left me, walked out with some other guy, and I'm going through it all. She didn't like any of this stuff I'm talking about, and probably thought I was crazy. But um, this is, I feel I have purpose in this. This is what I want to talk about. This is something very important to me, and sharing this with people is very important to me. I don't sit there and I'm not going to be. It's hard because depression is a real thing and it's hard not to get stuck in that. But Father wants us to keep pushing forward. I think He really wants us to keep showing that light regardless of how people treat us and do things. And I've been put to those tests. I forgave this person. I forgave people that have wronged me 100%, and I didn't do anything to even deserve it. And that's a really difficult thing to do. But I'm glad that I'm able to do that. I would never have done that before. I was atheist in my early 20s, and I was lost. I was trying to figure things out. I thought science had the answers for a lot of things. I thought a lot of things that now that I'm embarrassed to even admit that I studied and thought was right. I really liked your story too. I liked everything that you were saying and how you appreciated this person, and it was a life-changing event and you held on to that. I can just tell the authenticity of the things you're saying. A lot of people
Right.
get on to just say a lot of things, but that was great what you were saying. I really appreciate it.
I just, that's why I really like that verse that you kind of went over earlier with the being able to lay your life down and pick it up, on my own accord. He's the one that allows me to do that. So I take it seriously. I forget which verse it is, but he tells you, stay true to your word. Like if you promise something, do that. Right?
Right. Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
And that should be enough,
Yeah, anything more than that is evil.
And I've come to the place in my life where I essentially think out of the perspective lens of I deal in contracts. Okay. So if I sign up for an agreement, I want to read it and understand it and know that this is what I'm agreeing to. Whether it's a job that pays me X amount of money for said task, that's one thing, right? That to me is a job, a career, whatever you want to call it. But as far as work, is my belief that my work, I can't charge for my work because the work is what He allows me to do. It's not my work, it's His work, but He's going to do the work through me, and He's going to allow me to sacrifice myself if I feel like that's what I if it's coming from the place of the heart. I will do that, and I've always done that. I don't give to someone because I want something back or whatever. And I've also learned through life, going up, getting screwed over out of deals and being faulted and doing the same thing to other people, right? And I've learned from that. So it is very important to me when I keep my word. And if something happens and I break it, it's also my belief that if you know you wrong somebody, whatever that way is, and you have the ability to go right that wrong, say it's someone you know where they're at, whatever it is, like go do that. I believe that you have to, the forgiveness part is a multi-edged part of it, right? You have to forgive yourself, but you also have to forgive in the same way that you forgive other people for wronging you. You have to go to them and try to right it, understanding that's not always going to be received at every single moment, but you don't have control over that either. You have to try, I believe. And if that's something that you can't do or whatever, I will always take that lesson and apply it to my life to, as I move forward, not do that to other people in any way again, right? Or whatever,
Right,
and
right.
teach someone else like what I learned from that. Because again, you know, like I feel like we're supposed to go help each other, because I think the greatest currency is love. And you know,
Yeah, I mean, and
you can
I've
buy
had
a surgery and an
opportunities.
operation,
There's
right?
people that have put me through serious hurt, and I guess with the new word that people like to say, a lot of trauma, and I've had the opportunity to even see some of those people later in life and just say, hey, I just want you to know I forgive you. And it brings them to tears and things. They know what they did wrong. And I know what I've done wrong to people, but I want to live that way too. It's very important to me, and it seems like it's important to you too. That's pretty much the whole point. I mean, if you're living it out and you're trying to do what the Father wants you to do, that's pretty much the whole point. You can sit here and
Exactly.
you can study everything and know this and know that, but if you don't got that, you've got no application. it's worthless. If you got all the knowledge and there's no application, it's what are you doing? And I think that these people are too focused on knowledge and understanding, and there's no fruits, there's no actions. I'm so glad that like you're saying the things that you're saying, because I can relate with it way more, because I don't care how much you know. If you're living the way that you say that you are, and you're seeing things the way that you see them, that's way more important. The knowledge can come later. You'll be taught those things over time. Father will show you everything.
Right. And I, you know, like I don't know if it was the host that said it earlier, but like, yeah, you got to go meet them where they're at, right? But those of us that do have more knowledge and more abilities, right? That's why I referenced the talents, right? If you just, because I think that, you know, the reason why is everyone searches for it, and it is important to keep back and go read things and readjust with new perspectives, because the more you know, the more experience you get, you're going to have another perspective, and it's layered. It's not just here's exactly what it says, do that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you know,
That's right. That's right. I agree with you.
so like, yeah, that might be the introductory point of it, right? But it also has a deeper meaning and a deeper one and a deeper one. And I feel like the more that you stay in that spirit, then of authenticity and or I like to say genuinity better than authenticity, because I feel like that's more accurate. But do it genuinely, right? Whatever it is that you're doing. And I think there's a part where he references, you know, like being held to a higher standards and things of that nature. Like, the more you know and the better you can do, then you should do that. And if you gain more knowledge and more ability or more wealth, and you can do more, and then you keep that for yourself and you use it to create servants for self-gain, for self-preservation, for creating something else that is what you want to do that's outside of that work, then, you know, I feel like that's one of the worst things you can do, you know, because it's not like he gave you that ability for a reason. So if I was to read the talents parable again, right? If the guy gave you 10 talents, go out and get 10 more. You know, if I know how to sing, or I know how to play an instrument, and I go out and I play with other people and they teach me how to play a different instrument, and I can pass that on to someone else, and then I learn how to write a song, right? And then compose things, and that also allows me to think in a different way in creating art, right?
Absolutely.
That's
I've
different
learned
than
so
just being
much.
like, all I'm gonna do is use my knowledge to control one thing. You know, that's the way that I see that parable at this moment. Like,
Okay.
the one talent, right? The
Like
one talent
I've
is to
learned I've
control
learned a lot from
something.
artists here about painting, and she's been basically, like, in my eyes, a professional artist most of her life, and she's taught me many things and shown me many things I'm so appreciative of, that have helped me, with just painting and my own artwork as well. So I totally get what you're saying with that.
Because you know, I'm this is not me negating experts, right? I love the fact that we have experts in regions nowadays, but if you were to go ask someone that's an expert in building a computer or, you know, engineering, right? I can guarantee that's not the only thing that guy knows how to do or likes to do, even though he may be an expert in it, you know. He may like playing poker. He may like gardening, right? And so if no one ever taught him how to garden and to be able to do something that he enjoys, right? Even though he's an expert at his job as an engineer, right? I feel like the person that got him into gardening, right, that was following that expansion of talents and like, okay, I learned this thing and I can teach this to this person. And you know, not so there's plenty of times where he tells you you're going to know your people, right, and they're going to turn away, whatever. Like he tell you that they do you want wrong once, turn the other cheek, whatever. Like I'll do it frickin' 6 times, man. Like I'll keep doing it, I'll keep trying. If I know you're lying to me, I might, you know, I try to get better every day. You know, I've been like, I know when people are, there's tomfoolery around me, and I'll do something just to see or say something to make sure it comes back. And I also still give them a chance to come to me and just write it, you know, because for me it's all about like, hey man, like why it don't gotta be like that. But I try to approach every person with respect from the very first moment that I meet you. The way that I like to see it is I'm gonna let you see through the peephole. Okay, you know, when you look through the peephole in the door, that door, when you look through that peephole to what's inside of me, I'm gonna let you see the light the first time, respectfully, transparently. But when you allow me to look in your peephole, if you got your thumb over it, I'm like, come on. You know what I mean? Or if you got half of it covered or whatever the case is, like, I already know where we're starting from. You know what I mean? But that's part of meeting them where they're at. And I'm not.
That's a good point, though. I really like how you describe that.
I'm going to keep trying because, again, that 99-1 parable is very important to me. And I know that the guy who came and saved me, my youth pastor, you know, that was him answering my prayer. And I know in my heart that he lives in the same way. So when I sent that up, he sent it to him. And he came and did it in the time that he said.
Yeah, because you get the direct answer many a time. Some people don't see it, though.
So even if somebody is being deceitful with me or whatever, or trying to play me or get me to follow a specific way of looking at something, but they ask me for a prayer or they ask me for something that I can help with, and I'm going to try to do that. But definitely if they ask me for prayer, I take that very seriously. I'm not, even if they're, you know, like, I'm going to send it up because I'm going to let him figure it out. I'm like, look, even if this guy's trying to deceive me, but he's asked me to pray for him, I'll send it there. And if the father's like, no, that's foul, he'll send it back in the way he wants to. That's not my business. That's not my job. It's my job to try and be there for my brothers and sisters best that I can. That's it. Every day, every way. That's how I try to live my life. And I have things that I still have to deal with and figure out and whatever. Isn't that the whole point? Isn't that what we're always doing? But I don't like the division of things right now. I don't like labels and, you know.
I have to say we agree with you on that, yeah.
People get real mad at me when they go, are you in Christ or are you a Christian? And this and that. And I'm like, I don't want to stand here and tout that, like, in the way that you guys are doing that, because if I see the way that you're doing things, and it's kind of, and I'm feeling judgment towards me because of the way that I'm living or whatever, even though I'm trying to get better. There's a disconnect there, you know. I don't believe we're living in the same way, but I just feel like every form of divisiveness is used, and
Oh, it absolutely
when I
is.
see it, I try
Good night,
to
Sally.
not
Sorry.
do that. You know, I try to move aside from the divisiveness and be inclusive, and just figure it out. You know,
Yeah,
'cause
I mean, I try to be similar.
I feel like people get real lost on words and stuff too, because like if you're gonna say, right, competition versus collaboration, some people will argue that, well, without competition you're not going to get the best product. I would counter that with, if you're collaborating towards the goal that is the most high goal, which is in accordance with the most high and his way, which is love and the betterment for ourselves and each other, why can't we compete while collaborating to produce the best possible outcome in what it is that we are creating? It doesn't have to be about getting the accolades, but everyone wants to make it about the accolades. But
Yeah.
does that mean that someone doesn't need to get celebrated? No, right? I will still celebrate my brother or sister for winning that competition, understanding that we collaborated through competition to create something from the place that we were designed to create from. And at the end of it, yeah, let's celebrate that person and whatever, but then send all the praise up to the Father at the end of the day, right? You don't have to skip them along the way. I feel like people always want to just like make it real black and white. Like, well, if you're celebrating this person for creating this thing, then you're not giving all the praise to God. Like, how is that?
I see Jesus pretty much as the Father, because he said, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father."
So again, like that's something I won't fight with you on that, right? My perspective, just so I can share it with you, right? So because I can feel you and Abba and I feel both of you in the same way that I feel that your heart is in the same place. And it is my perspective, if I were to share it, that again, he created all of us and everything that we reside in and that is around us. So if he created the sun and then he created me and you, aren't we all interconnected through him anyways? Right? Yes, there are tiers to it, right? But I don't feel like we're disconnected in any way. I really don't. He created me. He created you. He created the people that are going way wrong and staying wrong on purpose. He created all of it. It's his plan, and he's going to connect it all. And so I feel that is the best way that I can say is like, yeah, okay. He is also doing his work through him. He did. And just like he's doing his work through you right now, and that's what I mean by he gave us the blueprint, you know? He gave us the blueprint through him. And we're not going to run a perfect score. We're not. He did that for the example to leave the blueprint. That's my belief, right? So I can see how most people will draw that parallel as that they are one, but it doesn't say that we are all one together through him.
I had to minimize the app there for a second. No,
Oh, no
it
worries.
sounds like he's got crickets in the background. Don't
Yeah,
sound
it
like
does, don't it? Well, we
like a
appreciate you
squeaky
sharing,
bed.
Pocket. I'm going to see if anybody else has any questions they want to ask us tonight,
Yep.
too.
Pap, did you have questions? I wanted to. You haven't said anything. You've been on the panel for a while.
I thank you for allowing me to come in and spend a little time and
I gave you a
and
follow.
genuine with me. Thank you. I will give
Yeah.
it
Oh
back to
gosh.
you.
Yeah. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
I do appreciate the people that sent gifts here. I will let you know that anybody who does send me gifts, I convert them right back into coins, and I go and send them out to people that I feel like are doing.
Well, I sent you some just because I liked what you were saying.
Well,
It
just
wasn't a
know
lot.
that that's anybody who's ever sent me anything in here, I don't have a PayPal account. I don't extract any of that money, and I feel like this is again what I talked about earlier, part of doing the work versus a job.
Right.
Anything that I can do on here, whether I'm doing a live or playing music or talking to other people, if they send me all that, I convert it back inside the app and I go back and give it to other people.
I haven't cashed out anything either. Just keep it within the app.
But that's just me trying to do what I said earlier and stay
Yeah,
true to
absolutely. Yeah, no, I get it.
my place, man. So thank you. I appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah, we love
Thank
the
you for
conversation.
joining
Thank
us.
you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, and really enjoyed listening to your story there and your testimony. It was wow to see people open up in a TikTok room. Generally what I see is people arguing about
A lot of
things
yelling.
a lot of yelling about things
Yeah,
that
true.
really don't matter. But man, I
I've been there
wanted
too.
to, yeah.
I've been there too.
But I really wanted to thank you for that. It really warmed my heart.
It helps. It helps a lot. Yeah, it's very encouraging. I'm glad that you were trying to live the way Father wants you to live. I think that's just the most important thing. You could never talk to us again, and I think you've got a good head on your shoulders to guide you into all truths. And especially if
Yes,
you're talking to Father, I mean that's crucial.
I appreciate it. Every day that he gives me on this side of the dirt is a blessing. Every time. So
I try to look at it the same way because I'm here for a reason.
yes, yeah, I agree. So
I don't think the
Keep
life is
searching,
meaningless
man.
or anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I hope you all have a blessed evening, and
Mm-hmm.
all praise to the Most High.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm probably going to call this, Nathan, because we've been on here 3 hours, if that's okay with everybody. Because I'm getting tired.
Yeah, I just
I'm
looked
just
at the
sitting out
clock
on the
and
porch.
it's 10:30. I just looked at the clock and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm just sitting on the porch.
I just
I'm
want to
hanging out.
say, kind of really enjoy calling on the atmosphere of this group and this room, and it's very productive. And I don't have to agree with everything everybody says to learn things, but wow, there's a real spirit of love here, and
It sure
it means
is.
the world. It means the world to me. I can feel it, and so appreciate y'all, love y'all, and have a great night.
You too. I hope everybody enjoyed tonight. And, I hope they got a lot out of this. And if you don't agree with us, that's fine. But study it out and decide for yourself. We love all of you.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Night,
right.
guys.
Good
Y'all have a
night.
good
Night.
one.
Good night.